welcome to another video. We are jumping straight into this video. No intro, no outro, no talkie other than this voiceover, obviously. But basically just wanted to document me painting when I felt like it. There was no reason for this painting. It was just for a bit of fun. And I think it's a good reminder for every artist out there that art can just be fun sometimes, or it should be all the time. And unfortunately, I get really in my head about the purpose of the painting. If it doesn't have a plan after it leaves the easel, then what's the point? It's not for a gallery. It's not being sold anywhere. What's the point? But the point is, I get a good practice in. I have a lot of fun doing it. As you can see, I'm painting Wayne Campbell from Wayne's World. I found myself just watching it one day because, duh, it's the best movie ever. And I really craved to paint a scene. And I really wanted to paint Wayne because it's like Mike Myers, iconic, and also I really wanted to have a go at painting his hat. I was like, wait, no, I also really want to paint Garth because of his crazy hair. That would be such a cool challenge. Paint. So I ended up deciding that I was going to paint this diptych, is that how you pronounce it? Basically, two paintings that are side by side and kind of sold as one. And I decided I was going to paint the scene where Wayne goes to Garth, no way, and then Garth goes, way. Yeah, and that's basically it. It doesn't have to be serious. It's just a bit of fun. And I wasn't even planning on making a YouTube video, but I decided that it's important that I share these sort of quick practices. I've got just a linen panel. I don't actually paint linen. This is actually my first time painting on linen. And I'm usually a wooden panel gal, to be honest. But I really liked how the paint adhered to the texture of the linen. Usually I avoid any sort of texture. Not any sort of texture, the texture of the paint I embrace, but the weave of the canvas I never liked because it's not skin-like. I'm trying to get realism here, and if there's this weird weave on the face of my painting, I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna translate as realistic because people don't have that weave on their face. But linen had such a subtle texture to it that it didn't bother me too much. And because this piece was just meant to be practice and it wasn't going anywhere, I do want to cut down on the time I spent on it. It was just supposed to be quick, and I really wanted to get this done in maximum 2 layers. And sometimes with how smooth the panel can be, the oil paint's super slippery and I have to do upwards of 3 layers. And I really wanted to get this done in 2. And I knew that linen texture would grip the paint better to help me speed up the time it takes me to paint. There's just less smoothing and it just absorbs paint a lot better. With a gessoed panel, it kind of sits on top and you gotta wait for it to fully dry until you can do anything. But I wanted this to be a quick little practice sketch. So going into it with this alla prima, very loose, very minimal layered painting, I decided that I wasn't going to do an acrylic base like I normally do. I went straight with the oil paint and sketched in my proportions. Everything seemed to be okay. I didn't struggle too much with the sketch. His mouth is kind of half talking, so that gets a little bit difficult because you don't want it to look like some crooked smile. I actually personally love painting a sort of half talking, slightly in motion character from a movie or TV show because that adds to the story. It looks like the person is communicating and is talking through the script, and you have all this extra information about the painting, and the painting looks like a movie, which I'm super passionate about. I think it's really cool. You get this sort of snapshot. It's not like a perfectly posed face. So that was the only thing I really struggled with, was his mouth. But you give me your thoughts, whether or not it looks weird or not. It's hard for me to kind of unsee it at this point. So as we're finishing up this first layer, this is still the first layer, and I feel like I've just this linen really does wonders. I was able to work super quickly, get so much more done just because there's less time smoothing, less time blending. The weave of the canvas kind of blends things together itself almost. So now we move on to the second layer, and as you can see, I'm tweaking some of the proportions. I didn't get everything right the first pass, and I think I needed to bring this left eye down just a touch, just to make it a little bit more in line with the other eye. It's kind of on a diagonal. I will say that both paintings, so both of the paintings in the diptych, I still don't think I'm saying that right. whatever. The paintings that are technically one painting in total of Garth, I made simultaneously, and they're both going to be in this video. I'm not going to pull a whole, one painting for part 1 and then part 2 is the other painting. I'm going to put it all in one video, but I am working on these paintings simultaneously, but I'm going to show it as if I'm doing Wayne Campbell first and then Garth second. But when I finished the first layer of Wayne, I let that dry for a few days, and in those few days I did the first layer of Garth, and then vice versa, put Garth out to dry and did the second layer on Wayne. And I really liked having that 2 painting system. I think working on multiple paintings at the same time is super beneficial. You never feel like that you're just starving for ideas because you always have something to work on. Speaking of comedy movies, I think I need to paint them more often, because watching a comedy movie makes life feel so lighthearted and just casual and just doesn't take things too seriously. It makes you feel good for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then to go and paint that for days and days and days, these characters that are so unserious, it just takes the seriousness out of life. And I think people need to do it more often. It's super cathartic. Thoroughly enjoyed it and highly recommend doing it. Staring at their cheeky little faces and capturing the true characters. Like Wayne's World, these 2 main characters are such characters. Like they are caricatures. You almost look like, it almost feels like you're watching a cartoon sometimes with how expressive they are. Especially Garth. Like you'll see what I'm talking about in the second painting of this video, with just the expression on his face is so iconic and so distinct. It just kind of made me smile painting them, because you get constantly reminded on the jokes in the film. Anyway, focusing on what's happening in the video. Focus, Saskia. The hat that I'm just finishing off now did not disappoint. It was super satisfying. Getting everything even though was a bit challenging, because you can't really get away with screwing it up, because typography needs to be symmetrical and even on all fronts, so that was a little bit difficult, but the blue light in both of these stills are just stunning. I absolutely love this bright ultramarine blue sky in the background that just creates this rim light around Wayne to make him pop a little bit more, and that's basically what I finished on. So that's Wayne Campbell done. I will do the big reveal and up close shots at the end, but we're gonna move on to Garth now, which, speaking of bright rim lights, Garth has 10 times the rim light that Wayne had, so I was super excited to get stuck into this. And approaching it very similarly like I did with Wayne's, just refreshed my palette, but I had all this wet paint from the Wayne Campbell painting that I decided to scrape down and put it all into one big mother pile, and it created this kind of icky brown color. But I thought that it would be a good color to use to sketch with. So we were using the paint, and we're going to use it to sketch in our figure. What I liked about using all of the different combinations of paint colors mixed into one big pile and using that as my sketch color is that it's quite then desaturated, because it has so many different colors in it. So I can start off quite desaturated and then slowly work my way up and increase the saturation as I continue painting. That's just the way that I like to go about it. I know that if I start off too saturated, then it kind of has a domino effect and everything becomes a little bit too saturated. So I like to keep it relatively neutral, and then in spots where I want the viewer's eye to focus on, I will make that more saturated than others. So if I were to make everything super saturated and then finding the spots where I don't want the eye to go to, it's like working on an area that's not going to be as relevant. So having more of a neutral desaturated base and then picking those key areas of the painting to saturate, it's so much more fun and less time consuming. And so now that the sketch was complete, it came together pretty easily. I didn't struggle too much. He's got a pretty iconic silhouette, so I feel like it looked like him pretty early on. I did struggle a little bit with the glasses. I've painted Harry Potter a few times, and the glasses just kill me every time because they're like an add-on to the face, but it still needs to look like it's conforming to the face and not like a 2D object on the portrait. It's very tricky. I don't know if I'm the only one that struggles so much with glasses, but I struggle with them every single time. And same with the first painting. I'm going to do 2 layers, and here I'm blocking the first layer for the hair, trying to set myself up for success with the second layer. I think I mentioned this before, but I do not like painting hair. Hair is my least favorite thing to paint. It's very repetitive, so detailed. Like, I love painting the features of a face, so I think it's safe to say that I'll probably never become a pet portrait artist because it's all fur, so I have mad respect for animal painters because I could not do what they do. But Garth has got quite the head of hair on him, so I was in for a bit of a challenge, but a challenge I was willing to take on because the hair is, again, so iconic that I was willing to commit to it. I can't do Garth without his incredible head of hair. And we're on to the second layer now, and this left eye I was really happy with. I thought the weave of the linen was gonna get in the way of me being able to do really fine detail like the wrinkles and the reflection of the eyes, but it turned out pretty well. I think it has a lot of depth. On the other eye though, Dana Carvey, the actor, does this slightly cross-eyed thing with Garth where he looks slightly cross-eyed all the time, but converting that into a painting, it might just look like that I'm bad at proportions and then I made him look cross-eyed. So having that balance of purposeful cross-eyed and bad proportion cross-eyed, I don't know if I pulled it off. I think it looks slightly wrong. But I'm just gonna put it down to the actor's vision. But let me know what you think because I really don't know. I think I've been staring at it for too long. Moving on down to the nose and the mouth of Garth. Again, I ran into an issue of Garth is such a caricature, but I'm painting realism, that I didn't know if his expressions were going to be translated into a painting well enough for it to look like that it's still a good painting and I'm not just bad at drawing, if that makes sense. You know, it's with the cross-eyed expression, but also his mouth that I'm painting now. He's actually quite angry in this scene, but he's got this smile. His top lip is kind of curled up underneath, and he pulls one side of his face out, and it's so hard to get accurate, again, because it's so iconic, but also very hard to paint correctly and not making it look bad. Again, I don't think I achieved it, but please let me know what you think.
We should be recovering that any minute now, actually.
We have to take a quick break, Neil, but stick around, everybody. I'll come back. I'm going to ask Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh my god. So that wasn't so fun. It did scrape my knee, and so it did smear at the top, but it was okay. I ended up fixing it. Also, I didn't realize the video that I'm watching was going to be as visible as it is, but it's very clearly visible. And as you can see, I'm watching Stephen Colbert, which I'm a huge fan of, and I've watched all of his videos, have nothing else to watch. And you saw me scroll there, and it's because I am going back all the way to 2020. So I'm watching all of the videos from 2020, and it is fascinating. It's crazy. It was a completely different time, and politically speaking, we're in a similar position, and it's wild. I thoroughly recommend everyone just take a trip down memory lane and just kind of remind ourselves where we were and like comparing it to where we are now. Crazy. So that's what I'm doing now. Little side rant, very off topic, but I just felt like I had to acknowledge what I was watching there because it's very clearly in frame. I thought that it wasn't going to be in frame, but it's very distracting. So I apologize for that.
Oh, Dana Carvey.
I'm doing like a diptych.
You what?
So it's doing right now. Successful as his victory of the coronavirus.
So as I mentioned before, this particular image has a lot of blue rim light. The Wayne Campbell one did have some rim light, which I really loved, and I think is what's going to tie these two paintings together so they look like a set. They look like a diptych, or however you pronounce it. So getting this hair right and getting the lighting right was going to be super important. It almost felt like at points I was painting a poster, like an old 80s 90s poster with the blue rim light. I feel like that was a thing back then. So I'm making sure that I work from dark to light. So I painted all the shadows, and then I found that some of the blonde hair that was in the blue light was actually quite gray and not like yellow. It was basically gray hair on that right hand side. And I'm making sure whenever I start a new section that I'm oiling out. This is going to be really important. And maybe what has caused me to struggle so much with painting hair is that I feel like I'm painting straw texture, but it doesn't have to be that way. Hair is quite soft, and maybe I'm just overcomplicating it sometimes. So making sure that I'm oiling out, wiping it away, and then my brush can blend really smoothly with the rest of the hair next to it. Again, I don't think I used to do this, so maybe that's why I felt like I would have to smooth out every single strand, but when I'm painting on a smooth, oily surface, it kind of smooths itself out. So it ended up being a more satisfying process than it has normally been. And we're coming up to the final highlights of this painting. This was probably my favorite part, adding the blue rim light, creating all the hair that's like slightly blowing in the wind, creating this beautiful glow around Garth. Super satisfying, and made sure to put some of it inside the hair as well so it doesn't look too stark. And that was Garth done. I was really happy actually with the final painting. It's obvious that not everything is perfect. There's definitely a few mistakes here and there, or things that aren't as rendered as I normally make them, but that's the whole point of this exercise. It was just a bit of practice, and it was just for me. Now we can't forget about the painting that we made in the beginning. I'm also really happy with this painting. I think the hat is effectively communicated. His expression was also quite tricky as well, and I think it worked out pretty well. But I do prefer the Garth one. I think there's just a lot more saturation. The lighting is a bit more interesting, and his hair is just so wickedly cool. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this more casual style video. If you do, I would love to make more of these. Just a reminder that art can be fun as well, and it doesn't need to be a purpose for every painting. It can just be for fun. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.